Well, hey there. Thanks for joining me for another brief devotional in the book of Romans. My name is Christopher Scott. If you're new to these videos, there's a link down there in the description where you can watch the entire playlist of these devotions in the book of Romans that I've been doing. Today's devotional is titled God's Works, or God Works for Good. God's Works. And it's based on Romans chapter 8, verse 28. So let's go ahead and get started. I want to read you this brief 3-minute devotional to you from the book of Romans. God's Works. A guy I know went to the birthing classes with his wife when they were pregnant with their first child. He learned about the process of delivering a baby and how to help his wife during her labor contractions. Months later, when the wife's contractions began at the hospital, my friend, he knew what was going on inside her body based on the science of what he had been taught at those classes. However, it became very clear very quickly that she knew what contractions were on a deeper level than he would ever know. My friend knew intellectually what contractions were. His wife knew what they were from experience. Likewise, often we know in our heads that God will work out our circumstances for good, but often we don't have that experience in our hearts. Paul told the believers in the city of Rome, he says, "And we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose for them." That's Romans chapter 8, verse 28 from the New Living Translation. One of my favorite Bible teachers, J. Vernon McGee, writes about this verse. "We come now to the new purpose of God. If Romans is the greatest book of the Bible and chapter 8 is the high water mark, then verse 28 is the pinnacle." How often is this verse quoted from memory, yet not experienced? Like my friend's limited understanding of his wife's contractions, sometimes we know that God works out things for good, but we don't really feel it, especially when going through difficult times. Also, we need to remember that this is happening now. God causes everything to work together. When Paul says God causes everything to work together, that's a present active verb in the original Greek text. Paul wrote in Koine Greek. This is something that God is actively doing. It's not something he does when he feels like it, when he's in a good mood, or when we have been loyal to him. God continually causes everything to work together for the good of us. Another truth we need to remember is that God has a plan, and just as it says at the end of verse 28, God has a purpose for us. And he has that purpose for us, which Ephesians 1:11 says, "Because we are united with Christ, we have received an inheritance from God. For he chose us in advance, and he makes everything work out according to his plan." That's Ephesians 1:11. God has a plan even if we might not always understand it. Even if we can't see him working out in our circumstances, he's using them for good. Warren Wiersbe has said, "We don't always discern God's plan, nor do we always understand his plan. But knowing that God is in command puts peace and joy in our hearts." That's from Warren Wiersbe. And that joy should be knowing in our hearts that God works out our circumstances for good. God's works. Romans 8:28. Thanks again for joining me for this brief devotional from the book of Romans. I hope to catch you again on another video.